It's like listening to a bunch of children talk about things that they don't understand. That is hereby announcing an across-the-board 50% tariff on our rival podcast, The Biffler, effective immediately, unless and until the Biffler's many hosts figure out a little bit of microphone discipline, or at least consider employing some dynamic range compression, such that perhaps their most engaged listener is not alternately straining to hear what is being said shortly before having his eardrums ruptured. Thank you for your attention to this matter. My name is Bob, sitting across the way from my good friend and co-host. That's Abe, not an audio engineer. How you doing tonight, Abe?
Doing well, Bob.
Yeah, here we are. Lori's here, too. How you doing tonight, Lori?
Oh, yeah.
Tonight is... are you still going?
No, I don't think so.
Lori doesn't think so. Tonight is Monday, July 14th. 2025.
This is Bastille Day. Is that where the French overthrown those people, the aristocracy? Well, something happened a long time ago.
Yep, there you go.
This is a very Europe-centric July. We're having a record on 7/7 last.
That's right.
Last
yeah.
week, 7/14
There was an attack on Bastille Day that time. That guy drove into the crowd.
Yeah, it was.
Why do you keep celebrating terrorist events, Abe?
I'm not just putting it out, It's usually somebody's birthday, but when it's not, like, wonder what's going on in Europe.
When it's not, there was probably a terrorist event to bring up and smile about.
I don't like to complain about the... I like to complain about lots of things. I don't like to pick on people's products. You guys, you put out a podcast. I appreciate that you do it. It's just a source of fun and occasional anger for me.
Once a month, twice a month.
The sound was terrible.
The sound was so bad on this particular version of the podcast. I don't know if some button didn't get pressed or if you guys were particularly rambunctious during the recording or something. But like... Mike was on the mic as loud as can be imagined, right. And alternately, someone would be barely there,
like in the other room or something.
Yeah, we gotta get this sorted out at the new place in the new studio.
Yes, I'm sure it'll be sorted out. Yeah, I did. Listening back to it, like this sounds worse than typical. So it's not like it ever sounds that great, but like this was.
Well, no, you have the problem of Binyam always sounding like he's in a tin can somewhere out in Maryland, and the rest of you sitting enjoyably around a table. But this was bad. Yeah. It's funny because there were two podcasts I listened to this week. One, the Fifth Column podcast, had a similar problem where two of the dudes were quite loud, and one of them was quite soft, and the one who's quite soft is the one who speaks the most. And so I had to turn it up to have any chance of hearing what that person was saying. Often I also had to do that with you.
Yeah.
I turn it up when Abe is talking, and then all of a sudden Mike is shouting in my ear, like, shit, like one of those. Like, oh, God, that's way too loud. And you can just push a button on your, I know you guys don't do any editing, obviously.
That's true.
But, like, you just run it through one of these programs, and it's like, look, we're going to make a maximum of a 7, for example, and a minimum of a 4, and that gives you a dynamic range that most ears can handle. Instead, you guys had like a 2 and like a 17, and it was very unpleasant to listen to. And that's just the sound, the volume, to say nothing of the content,
the substance of it,
which was an absolute horror show from almost start to finish.
What were your objections, Bob?
After the hour spent discussing an NBA Finals that took place something like a month ago.
That's right.
You then went on, one of your fine co-hosts went on to suggest that the casualties of the Hamas attack against Israel like a quarter of what they actually were,
300 or something.
without citing any sources.
Right.
Simply saying they inflated the numbers at the start, and then, as everyone knows, actually the number was much, much smaller.
Right.
And the general discussion around the Israel-Palestine situation described mostly in terms of like vibes and like why those Palestinians have such good vibes in the culture and the Israelis have such bad vibes in the culture.
Apparently, like there is a perception war going out there, and it seems like Israel is losing it. At least that was the feedback that I got. Where I guess online things are trending towards the Palestinians. I think that's
and among the youths, right? And
yeah.
on TikTok
Yeah.
and apparently on Instagram, I guess. Like everybody's because as your co-hosts were saying, everybody's rooting for the underdog,
Right.
and it's like, man, do you have some wrong ideas about what would happen if they were no longer the underdog? Have you considered reading anything about that religion that you professed to belong to for like a decade or so because you got married, my man? And what the most fervent adherents of that religion were in favor of.
Yeah.
But whatever. I mean, it's good to listen to people who either have literally no understanding whatsoever of what's happening there because they choose to be actively ignorant of it and acknowledge their own ignorance, like your one co-host, Erpin. Right. It's interesting to hear his take on things, and then further interesting to hear what must be like the media diet of people who have this. And you know what it makes me wonder about, without no longer concerned about the specifics of that conversation. I listened to you abiding all of this stuff on the show, and I can't help but wonder, because I don't think that you really agree with a lot of what is being said around the table, and you are magnanimous and a good listener and a good friend who just wants to listen to people talk. Like you have a genuine curiosity about what people think, and it's good.
Humans.
Humans. What the human type
fellow humans.
Yes, exactly. Yes,
is thinking and what they believe about the world around them. You don't do a lot of objecting to the opinions expressed there, and I worry that you're sitting there across from me now, similarly horrified by the things that I say, but you're too just genuinely curious at the display that's being made by me to object to the things that you disagree with. I don't think that that's the case. I think that usually I get good pushback from you when you think that I'm wrong.
Right.
And I just don't see it as much.
I think like it is kind of a dynamic thing. There's just too many people to kind of like say, well, I disagree on this one point, and like it's easier to do it in this setting when there's just just three people, and usually you're saying a lot of the stuff. It's easier to say if there was a point of contention to say like, well, what about this, right? It's kind of hard to do it when there's like a big group, and also like I am interested because like. Some of the stuff that I hear from the people on the other podcasts, like it's like news to me. Like I did not know that was like a perspective that they have.
It's genuinely completely outside of what you believe to be in the realm of the possible.
And more or less,
it's like listening to a bunch of children talk about things that they don't understand.
I don't think it's like.
And why would you bother? It'd be like running onto the soccer field or the wiffle ball field and like imposing your rule on the chaos that's happening. Like, no, just let them kick each other in the shins and fight and bicker and argue instead of actually getting anything productive done. Why bother?
My position is, I suspect that we consume a lot of this similar content, like as far as news, and so like I'm not surprised at any of the stuff that you say because like I've read the stuff that
How dare you? Occasionally, surely you're surprised by something that I say.
Like some of the stuff that I'll hear from like Binyam or Simon. Urban's usually like they're like, I don't know what's happening. Let me know. Like I'm playing the role of I don't know. And then Mike, I don't know, whatever happens on TikTok. But like sometimes it's just like, oh, I did not see that. I didn't. So like a lot of times I'm just asking questions. Like I'm not like, like, oh, I did not know that because that's not. that's not something that I consume. And, I'm always in the position, like, maybe I'm wrong. Like, I don't know. Give it time. Like 6 months from now.
That's an interesting position.
Maybe I'm always like, I don't want to get in a position of like, well, I'm right and whatever they're saying is wrong. Like, sometimes that's true, but like not always. I'm sure, I've been, and that's proven by my sports predictions. I'm wrong all the time. So it's like,
yeah,
maybe,
sure.
Just interested to see the.
You're not wrong if you were to object to someone dismissively saying that fewer than 300 people died on the 10/7 attacks. Right. You would not be wrong. Whatever. Yeah. It doesn't matter.
But,
I said I was done.
That's like another, like, I would wonder, like, is the revision of the number, is it like to minimize the tragedy? Because like you see that, I mean, that was the attitude that was being expressed, that somehow Israel's reaction to this, it was to bolster the idea that Israel's reaction over the course of the last coming up on 2 years has been over the top, right? And the way that you can bolster that is by saying, well, only a couple of hundred of civilians died. The rest of them were all military, even though that's simply not true. Right. But, like for a while, because it's a bit like I understand why people make this point, but like, whenever the numbers come out on the other side, they're like, oh, 20,000 kids died or whatever, right? But it's coming from the Hamas health, whatever. Like, so you're like, maybe they're making that up, but like there's sometimes some minimizing on that, like where they're like, oh, it's not 20,000 kids, it's probably like 5,000. And they're like, anytime there's like quibbling with numbers, I'm like, is that, you're just trying to be accurate, or you're just saying like it's not that big of a deal? Like, because like accuracy is important, but like if the point is to say that it's not that bad, then that's a different thing.
Yeah. And I said I was done quibbling with the specifics of the conversation. However, we did not yet approach the P. Diddy conversation.
Oh, the Diddy, yes.
In which the Biffler veered very close to celebrating P. Diddy and the lack of criminal conviction that he faces.
It's the least surprising thing I've heard.
He was convicted of the lesser charges, but not convicted of the more serious charges that might have landed him in jail for an extended period of time. Instead, he faces up to, I think, 4 years in prison, and likely it will be less than that.
Right. And at the end of the podcast, there's this segment, Greaseball Filet, like cribbed from another podcast, to where like each co-host will say something good, filet, and something bad, greaseball. And I believe Simon had Diddy, the perpetrator, as a filet, good, and Cassie, the person, one of the victims, as a greaseball. Like, right. But I mean, it was narrowly defined. Good, bad.
A literal murderer's row of awful human beings have been fillets on the Biffler through the years.
I hope nobody ever looks at all the fillet entries. It's probably not a good list.
I will maybe write this up in an email to the Biffler, as I do from time to time. But the idea that somehow, there's a, and again, it makes me veer into very uncomfortable territory myself, because it asks of me to paint with a very broad brush to even enter into this conversation, which is not to my preference, obviously. But that will not stop me in this moment from veering into that uncomfortable territory, I suppose. But the idea that, because, of course, this is apparently, and I didn't know this, apparently this is sort of parallel with the O.J. Simpson situation, which is like, well, maybe he did it, but black people were happy because finally a black guy got away with it in a way that white guys have long been getting away with it. Which I encourage you to send me all of the white dudes who viciously murdered their ex-wife and a waiter with a knife, who got away with it. Just send those along, because that would be interesting to me.
It's my husband, O.J. Simpson.
In terms of no, I'm not saying that I would like to murder my ex-wife. No,
I'm just saying, on the 911 call, hey, it's my husband, O.J. Simpson, here trying to kill me and this waiter.
Sounds like a Norm Macdonald bit that you're doing there. But that suggests, I think, a profound moral failing to be like, hey, it's good that Puff Daddy got away with it because white people been getting away with it for a very long time.
Do not do that voice.
And I didn't do any voice. I simply left out a modifying verb, perhaps, but I did not do any voice. There have been, just in the last few, look, I mean, what's in the news right now? Jeffrey Epstein, a multi-millionaire or perhaps even a billionaire financier, mysterious origins of his money. Nobody really knows, apparently, like a much more interesting story behind the whole Jeffrey Epstein phenomenon than the story with which we are presented, I think it's fair to say. But held to account in some meaningful way. Did he get a sweetheart deal originally, which proved to be ultimately the downfall years later? Yes, but prominent, or not even particularly prominent, right? Just a very wealthy individual who the average asshole wouldn't have known back in 2000, right? He was known in certain circles, obviously, but just an average rich asshole who was abusing women and held to account for his actions. I'm not saying that every single rich asshole has been held to account for such actions, but a man worth $1 billion or whatever ultimately was. Also, Harvey Weinstein is another good example. Somebody who was a total shithead for a generation, right? Who was like this weird throwback to a casting couch mentality that might have been a more common practice in that industry back in the 30s and 40s and 50s or whatever. A total fucking creep who largely was sent up to prison to end his days in prison because of profound moral failings, right? Like, were there moments of clear criminal conduct of which he was convicted? I guess, maybe. But like the reason that he's in jail for the rest of his life is basically, he's a fucking creep, right? And he would be like, hey, you want this role? I've got something here in my pants for you to sort out, if that's the sort of role that you want there, sweetie, right? A total shithead. Held to account for his actions. It's not, and I know perhaps what you're saying is you are pointing at the iceberg, the tip of the iceberg that is above the water that has been held to account, whereas a full culture of white people are never held to account. That is what is beneath the surface there. Maybe there's an argument for that. I don't know. But if we're going strictly by the percentages here, like the amount of high-profile white people who are found to have been creeps and prosecuted for their creepy behavior doesn't seem to me to be terribly out of proportion relative to their number in the population. And like to suggest somehow that Puffy is that the culture should be happy that Puffy is getting off from some trumped-up charges that essentially because he's a creep. They were only brought to him because he's a black guy? Like, what? What are we talking about here? Like, you have to have a certain kind of weird understanding of, like, where you are or what. Like, I don't know. Again, now I'm right on the verge of veering into places that I don't want to go to.
Well, you know what's interesting? You know, I don't think that the O.J. Simpson case relates to this, except for there does seem to be this. There is this anytime a prominent black person runs afoul of the law, like they're accused of something heinous, right? There's like a subset of the black population that thinks like this is a prominent black man versus the system, and they kind of set aside the victim that's in the mix. Like nobody cares about Nicole Brown and the dude Ron Goldman. Or Cassie in this case,
and Cassie in particular is like a very unpleasant victim to have to reckon with, right? Like someone who, in her testimony in this case, revealed herself to be a problematic victim at the very least, right? Not that such a thing should matter ultimately in terms of
it shouldn't, but you're right. You always need to have like a perfect victim for whatever reason. People's mental math is like, if there's any sort of deviation from that perfect victim image, it's like, well, maybe they deserved it. Like, I mean, they're not going to say they deserve it, but like that's like the attitude almost. Like, well, whatever. They weren't all that great either. But like, even with Bill Cosby, R. Kelly, like, there's always like this, like
R. Kelly, of whom there is video of him doing things that I don't want to say.
Right. There's like this reflexive need to like throw some support, like, hey, the system is coming after somebody prominent because they are black. But then, like, if sometimes the evidence is so overwhelming that you can't support them, like with OJ, I mean, not with OJ, but like with R. Kelly and Bill Cosby. I think those two cases are like, fuck them. With OJ, I think it was like on the heels of the Rodney King, the 4 cops hitting him, they got off, and they're like, well, the system, they should have gotten something. Like, maybe not like,
and it betrays a sense of nihilism,
right,
of systems, right, of our system at all. Right?
It's also super misogynist.
Yeah.
Like, these women are liars. They just want money and fame. Like, it's always in there.
Right.
But when it's not a person that's prominent, when it's just some frat boy, it's like, oh, she's lying.
But to give Sean Combs a pass here is indicative, I think, of, because his behavior is like, and even your co-hosts were saying, like, obviously the thing that he did, is video of him smacking the shit out of that girl and dragging her around the hotel floor or whatever. Like, that's not okay. We can't be having that. Right. But like, the only reason they're going after him with all of the other stuff is because of, like, is the thought literally that it's because he's a successful black person? Like, and what's funny is that, like, a year ago on the Biffler, it was all, yeah, we always knew, right? The culture always knew that he was a fucking creep. Right. And none of this is a surprise. And, like, I think Binyam was saying, like, he's going to go, like, it's real bad. He's going to go away for a really long time because it's way worse than even we're seeing on the surface. But then a year later, after he's up against the state, it's like, no, now we're celebrating the fact that he's not getting the worst of the punishment. And it's it verges on pathology. Like, there's something going on there that is profoundly unhealthy.
Right. I think it's just like whatever is the most salient, like, narrative that kind of takes hold. So, like, when it's all the stuff being, when it was just the video of Diddy, like, just assaulting Cassie, like, that was it. Like, there wasn't the state or anything, like the man or whatever. It's just like, holy shit, this guy's a piece of shit. And then you hear all these stories about his lube fascination and whatever. Like, this guy's a fucking perv and weirdo, blah blah blah. But then that's what kind of won the day then. And then when it's like acquitted of the most serious charge, like, oh, they overreached and they're coming after him. They try to get him because he's famous and black and whatever. Like, that's at the back of your mind. That's always like a thing that people have. It's like, well, they must be coming after him because of that.
Also, he's so fucking lame. And I thought it was well established that Sean Puffy P. Diddy Combs was lame. Like, I thought we had agreed on this a long time ago, that it was sort of embarrassing that Sean Puffy P. Daddy Combs was as famous and successful as he was. Like, it's sort of shameful that we have raised him up to this point. I don't mean we, the black culture. I mean we collectively, right? And, like, I thought people understood. I thought that was well understood, that P. Diddy was pretty lame.
Enough people like him. I mean, even right before all of the stuff came to light, like 2023, like a couple, like maybe a few months before all the news came out, the mayor of New York City gave him, like, the key to the city. Like, he had
who else is lame?
Support. Yeah,
Eric Adams is pretty fucking lame, right? Like, that makes a lot of sense to me, actually. Eric Adams out here giving the key to the city to Sean Combs. Like, yes, of course, checks out.
That's right. But yeah, like, I just think, like, I don't know what it is. Like, if somebody, there's this thought where, like, if somebody's, like, on your side, you have to, like, defend them. I mean, wasn't there, like, a bit of a bump that Trump got when he actually was, the mugshot happened here in Atlanta, when one of the, basically it's like there's like this rallying effect. Even if there were some people that are like, this guy's a fucking weirdo. Like, there does seem to be this thing where, like, whenever,
and there were Trump. If it wasn't Trump, it was people in the right wing ecosystem talking about how this is going to help him in the community.
Right.
Like,
because they're doing merchandise off it.
And the prosecution by the state was going to help him among black Americans, especially male, young black males.
Right. I wonder if it's a reptilian part of the brain that's like, oh, one of us. Gotta, like, I don't know. But I mean, like, yeah, Diddy is, I do wonder if he's gonna come out like leaning into it though, like doing some sort of Farrakhan kind of thing. Like they're coming after me because I'm black. Kind of lean into that. Like if his career can't recover from this, which I don't think it will.
What is the career? Career? Like, what are we talking? He was always a joke. This is
I know, but he's like a producer.
He was always like just sort of doing a stupid P Diddy dance off to the side, like and just like, oh, I'm going to do a verse on this song. He's basically not as cool as Jermaine Dupri, right? Like, and Jermaine Dupri's not very cool.
That's right.
Anyway, enough about the Biffler, I guess. Although we managed to talk about not just the Biffler. All right. Briefly on the tariffs news that's going on here, which is obviously very engaging stuff. The lawlessness of the Trump 2.0 of the second trumpeting is something that's been top of mind basically since day one, and in part because of what I viewed as the lawlessness of the Biden administration on the way out the door. So the lawlessness of the executive is a theme that is of interest to me, and I think evident in almost every single story that I see about the Trump administration at this point. In particular, I saw a headline from the New York Times this week about how Trump is threatening to impose 50% tariffs on the nation of Brazil,
right,
unless and until they stop harassing Jair Bolsonaro, who's a corrupt politician down there himself, but someone who has some favor in the right-wing media ecosystem, and in Trump's mind somehow he's a fellow traveler of a sort of a trumpeting populist right movement happening globally. And apparently Jair Bolsonaro's son, who's like Edward or Eduardo or something, had been hanging around the White House a bunch for the last month or so, trying to get Trump to target specifically a Supreme Court justice or some Supreme Court justice equivalent down there in Brazil, who's bringing legal action against Bolsonaro. And instead, Trump was like, no, I'll just do sanctions on the country of Brazil until they stop harassing your old man, which was not something that anyone was asking him to do, and he just decided to do it.
Right.
And so he says 50% tariffs on all Brazilian goods until they stop fucking with my boy.
Is that coffee?
Coffee prominently, but I believe we have a trade surplus.
Yeah, that's the weird thing about it, because like all these other countries, there's some deficit, even though that's the way that Trump thinks of the world, it doesn't make sense. But like in this case, there's a trade surplus, and this is a targeted like tariff for like a non-economic reason, right? Like this is not like there's some sort of unfair...
You can't say it's national security.
Right.
You certainly can't say it's economic, because he's tied it explicitly to the political, what he claims to be the political prosecution of what he views as an ally.
Right.
But is in fact just a criminal prosecution. So I don't know how this is in any way defensible or based in any normal understanding of the presidential power, which, by the way, doesn't actually is within the right of Congress to do this sort of action traditionally. But of course, they've ceded that power and ceded it even more so under Trump.
Right, but I think that the environment in which Trump is operating in the second term is like the perfect storm, because you have an aggressive executive branch, right? Like, let's just do a lot of things that we want to do. You have a permissive Supreme Court, just like let's just let it play its course and see what. So many instances so far in the last 6 months. It's only been 6 months, but like the Supreme Court's position is just like, until we make a decision, just let them do the executive branch whatever they want to do. Like even on things that are like, pretty black and white. They're like, let's just run it out, and then we'll go through the courts, and then we'll decide down the road. you have an obedient legislative branch. There's just like whatever you want, do, right? And so like, why not try to like use the tariff to get what you want? You know, like just over this weekend there was the FIFA Club World Cup final, and there was this very comical scene where the winning team, you know, all those suits get out of the way so that the winning team can lift the trophy and celebrate with their players. And there's a video of this where Trump is just in the group, like he's being told to like, all right, let's step aside so the team can have their moment, and he's just standing there, just like, oh, this is fun. Like,
I didn't
congratulations.
see that.
Oh, it is. And then he like stole like one of the like, I don't want to say stole, but like he just took one of the medals that they give to each player and just pockets it. It's a very funny scene. But I just think it's at the point where like he's just gonna try and do whatever he wants, and there isn't really anybody out there that's stopping him. So like, why not? You're almost kind of incentivizing bad behavior, and so like, why not tell Brazil tariffs or do what I want? Because if that works there, and it won't, like I can't imagine Brazil, complying with this ridiculous ask. But like maybe a smaller country, he'll ask for some favor, or I'll impose a tariff on you. Like clearly, like there's no economic or national security issue at stake. It's just like because I said so, and there's nobody out there to stop him. So why not? And I think all of the, like, how many deals are we up to? Was there 90 deals in 90 days? I think we're like at 2 still. Vietnam.
Officially 2, yeah. And
the UK, right?
2.5, I think they're claiming there's one more in the works. I forget which one is coming. With the China one, I think they claim is done. But like, how can you say any of it is done if, like, now today or yesterday they're talking about, because Trump is now also threatening new tariffs on Russia. And when I first saw that story, I was like, what do you mean tariffs on Russia? We can't possibly have an open trade relationship
That's right.
with Russia for the last few years. And so I'm Googling up, like, what is the current trade relationship with Russia? And we have apparently like $3 to $5 billion that we import from Russia.
It's metal.
Even as... Yeah, and enriched uranium, apparently.
Just like
it's
aluminum.
such a bizarre notion that we have spent the last 3 years putting maximum pressure campaigns on Russia, apparently. And we've seized all sorts of assets from privately held assets from Russian oligarchs, and seized in international banks so they can't have access to it, and forcing people to stop trading with Russia. But the United States still brings in it's a relatively small amount. Like their main trading partner is China, and I think they have like $300 or $400 billion in trade that Russia sends to China every year. And they also do some trade with India, and of course smaller countries like Iran and North Korea, I suppose. But like even that $3 billion, like, is it really so important that the United States buy $3.5 billion worth of metal and enriched uranium from Russia? Like, we can't source that elsewhere while this shit is going on. I was very surprised to find out that we were still buying anything at all from them.
So the idea is to put a tariff on just that little. I mean, because like in the grand
Well, no,
scheme of
because
things,
of course
that's not
that
a
wouldn't
lot.
have any fucking impact whatsoever.
Right.
Apparently, the idea is to do secondary tariffs on people who do trading with Russia. So, like, we would impose 100% or 500% tariffs on Chinese goods if they continue to have a trade relationship with Russia after this 50-day deadline is set up. But also, how can we take any of the deadline talk? I know this is all a fucking fool's errand to talk about any of it, because we were supposed to have a deadline day, I think at the end of last week, where all of this stuff was supposed to, we're going to have new tariffs coming due on all sorts of countries, including Canada and Mexico, because we haven't come to final trade agreements with them or what have you. And they're like, no, it's in the works, so we're going to push that off some more. But like in the immediate aftermath of saying those deadlines are bullshit, he's going to set a 50-day deadline on Russia to come to terms with an end to the war, or else he's going to impose severe economic sanctions on their trading partners. And so, like, we would effectively shut down trade with China and India and anybody else who does trade with Russia,
Right.
unless the war comes to an end. And I wonder if that includes the enriched uranium and other precious metals that we buy from Russia ourselves, or if we would just continue to go on buying those regardless.
You know what's weird is that like Russia has specific aims in invading Ukraine. So I always wonder what did Trump think was going to happen when he got into office? Like he was going to sweet talk Putin and he would say never mind all of these years worth of deaths and capital and all this investment on this war, just attacking this country. And you say a few words and what? We'll just stop fighting? Like it never made any sense. Like what? Like I don't know why Trump seems so disappointed that Putin's lying to him. Like everybody says that he does this, right? So why would it be different with him?
I mean, because I think that he is a person with a genuine belief in the power of his ability to convince people to do things because he's asking them to do them, right? I think that is, for all of the bluster and bullshit, I think that he truly believes that, because you always hear we want a businessman in charge. He was never a businessman, right? He's just a salesman, right? He's just someone who believes he can convince you to say the right thing in public, and then we can figure out all of the details on the back end, right? And that the actual thing that's going on is of secondary consequence to just getting on the same page in public. Right. And that is not the reality of geopolitics, right? It's just not how things work, as the Wendy's commercial goes. And I guess I don't know. He's coming to realize that, perhaps, or that in a fit of anger. And it's like when he got in front of the press outside of a helicopter a couple of weeks ago, and said that thing about because he says I declare ceasefire on an evening, right. And Iran and Israel had not agreed to those terms, and in fact, it's one of those ceasefires where it's it's going to happen in 48 hours, right. Because we need to have a retaliation for the thing that happened, right. Yesterday, and then Israel's going to have the retaliation for the thing that we retaliated against, and then we'll retaliate one more time, and then ceasefire. We'll
settle the score, yeah. Right. Once we're even.
We have to settle up the various things that need settling, and then we'll do a ceasefire. But Trump comes out in front of the press and is like, "These idiots don't have any fucking clue what it is that they're doing. I said ceasefire, and now they're still fighting, and I'm fucking mad about it." And then he turns around and walks on the plane, and it's very a similar sort of thing where it's I don't understand. I told Putin that this shit has to stop. We're going to give him very favorable terms. We want Ukraine to have to eat all of the shit, and he still won't join us in celebrating Ukraine having to eat all the shit. And I don't know what's going on. It's not fair.
Right. And now they're going to send the weapons through this convoluted way, I guess through NATO. I don't know how it's being done, but what is going to happen in 50 days? Putin's not going to want to change it. He's not going to change his mind in 50 days. So this kicking the can down the road every time accomplishes what? I just don't understand what the idea here is.
Yeah, I don't know. And it's whatever.
And the market is not reacting because they don't know what to, it just keeps extending the delay. So if on August 1st he sticks with it, maybe then the market will react. But right now it seems like whatever, we'll just go on as if he didn't say anything.
Right. And also they can point, and now the administration continues to point to, there's somebody on one of the news shows. I think it was Kevin Hassett, who's a very annoying individual. This little sniveling.
He always has that disposition where everything is fine. It doesn't matter what the topic is. It's just but your boss just said the opposite. He's whatever. He doesn't seem to. He's always just
the guy with the cold.
Face.
Yeah, the guy with a constant cold.
Yeah, that guy has a cold.
He sucks so much ass. But I think he said something. I think it was him who said Donald Trump was the greatest businessman of the 20th century.
He did say that.
The single greatest businessman of the 20th century. A man who could not make a casino profitable in Atlantic City, right? Who went bankrupt trying to run a casino multiple times. was the greatest businessman of the 20th century.
Why now? What's going on?
Well, I think that we've got a deadline that's coming up in early August. And the thing about President Trump, if you go back and look at his history, that he became one of the most successful, if not the most successful businessman in the 20th century because he was able to squeeze everything out of every deal that he made. And right now we've got that guy who wrote The Art of the Deal, making deals for the American people.
It's quite a claim to make.
Right. But, your boss, you got to...
But yeah, what they're able to claim is like all of these monies are being piled up in the U.S. Treasury, more money than ever because of these tariffs being taken in by the United States, and no impact on the end user at this point. It's like, look, you fucking dumbass, that's not how any of this works either. The tariffs weren't going to be a problem tomorrow. Right. They're going to be a problem systemically, long term, right? Like next year. It's going to be devastating for the American economy.
At the end of this, I think at the end of this year, it's going to be like in the Christmas shopping season is going to be impacted.
Right, but the idea that everything is fucking fine, they're whistling like, and they're this is the greatest success. Like, Democrats and the media were insisting that this was going to be the end of the American economy if we instituted these tariffs, and instead everything's fucking great. We're going gangbusters, and the stock market is up. Whatever. The bullshit will eventually come back to earth, I assume, but I guess we'll see. I did want to talk also about the Jeffrey Epstein thing briefly, just because it is a source of some amusement and merriment to watch these people tear themselves apart regarding this stuff. We mentioned it on the show, of course, that Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and like Dan Bongino downplayed any of the details of the Epstein case in terms of there being some grand conspiracy. And this is, of course, after Kash Patel and Bongino in particular spent years doing conspiracy mongering on just this subject, which is that they're not telling us the truth because it would harm their political interests and the elites. Fucking Bill Gates he's going with Epstein to Epstein child porn island or pedophile island and getting rub and tugs from underage girls so that he can put microchips in the vaccines and have them injected into your arms or what have you. And this is somehow tied into Comet Pizza and the Clintons and everybody else. And now they get behind the scenes and they get a look at the files and nope, nothing to see here. Don't worry about it. There's actually no there. And that does not sit well with the kooks who are their base, right? It does not sit well with people who believe that the system is hopelessly corrupt. It is filled with child rapists who are trying to extract adrenochrome from your children in order that they might get high and perhaps live forever or something as reptilians into the glorious future. Like these are people who believe the absolute craziest shit about reality. And what's interesting is that this is sort of the first time that you see Donald Trump running afoul of the absolute craziest people in the cult, in the people who have made the trumpeting possible. And it is, if this will not be the undoing of Trump in a meaningful way. There will not be a cleaving of Trump from his most fervent supporters, but in a poetic sort of way, in a karmic sort of way, it would be great if this was the thing that did him in, because he came to power in the modern political world, becoming the champion of a conspiracy theory to the point where he was the one most prominently associated with it, which is the Obama birther controversy, which was not of his making, but was something that he latched onto very early on in the process. And I've said, I think before on the show, that I must have been among the very first people to hear about the birther conspiracy because it was a coast-to-coast thing. At one point, I forget who the individual was who brought it to Coast, but I remember saying the morning after I heard that Coast program about how Obama wasn't born in Hawaii, as everyone was insisting, but was in fact born in Africa, perhaps. And I said, this isn't going to just go away. This is going to continue to be a big deal for some time to come, not because I thought that there was necessarily any truth value to it, but because it's like an impossible thing essentially. There's not fucking video of Obama's mother giving birth to him in Hawaii. We're talking about birth records on an island nation from 3 generations ago that probably aren't necessarily in the best shape. And so it will be catnip to the crazy types, as you might say.
Right.
And it proved to be the case. Trump took it and ran with it and made an entire made our last 10 years out of it in important ways. This is what launched him into the right-wing media ecosystem in a way that he hadn't really been before. And all of a sudden, he's mainlining Mark Levin and Sean Hannity talking points and is a regular talking head on Fox News in the years that followed. So it would be a particularly wonderful form of poetic or karmic justice to see him undone by a similarly absurd conspiracy theory. And also, by the way, like, there are perfectly reasonable reasons to believe that they are downplaying any Epstein information because Trump's name appears within whatever those files may or may not be.
You know, this story is kind of perplexing in one regard. Like, Trump made a big thing out of this. His campaign did, about Epstein and blah blah blah, or at least he let this conspiracy theory fester in his movement. And so, like, if Trump is on the list, he knows that he's on the, like, I would imagine that Trump knew where he stood on this Epstein files list, right? So this should not be a surprise. So you would think that as soon as he won office in November, he would steer clear from this. Like, you know, it could get lost in the shuffle. Like, you know, the guy's dead, whatever, you can just move on to some other topic. But then he brings on to the Justice Department Kash Patel, who was talking up this whole thing, and Don Bongino as his deputy, who kept on talking about this thing. And into the first term, like, as recently just as a couple of months ago, you have your attorney general saying, you know, we have it, you know, the list or the files on my desk, blah,
right,
blah,
and
blah.
She's gone to great lengths to try to justify her misspeaking, or that her quote is being taken out of context there. And I, like, having watched the full interview, or the full clip of that portion of the interview, I agree with her. She was not directly responding. She did not necessarily indicate that the Epstein list is on my desk right now. She was saying it's part of a large file that has been, like, with MLK and JFK stuff, and it's all on my desk right now, and I'm going through it. But that doesn't excuse the fact that she had a bunch of right-wing influencers to the White House who she handed 3-inch binders with large letters on the front that say, like, the Epstein docs part 1 or something.
Right.
And like very much playing into all of that stuff just a couple of months ago.
Right. And you know, the footing is all about, like, transparency. You know, if the investigation's ongoing, once it's done, we'll have everything released and blah blah blah. Like, that was at least the idea. And to make this about face to where, like, there's nothing happening, let's move on. Like, all of a sudden, like, this is like kind of like an own goal thing. Like, you created the environment where there's this expectation, and then you don't deliver on the expectation that you yourself create. Like, this news cycle is your fuck up. And I think you're right. I don't think it's going to undo Trump. But what it will likely do is that, you know, there are these, what do they call them? Low propensity voters. Like, these voters who typically don't come out to vote, but for whatever reason, Trump captured the imagination of these low propensity voters. So they would show up to vote for him in 16, 20, and 24, right? I think those low propensity voters and, like, right-wing podcast people, those people are going to go back to tuning out politics. Like, they're all the same and blah, blah, blah. I think that's what's going to happen, to where, because it's kind of now hard to defend your boy if he is carrying water or minimizing child molestation, right? It's kind of hard to make that case. So, like, instead of just saying I was wrong, just say, they're all the same, politics sucks, back to sports. I think
I think the more likely scenario, because I don't think that he is capable of not courting that particular subset of the American conspiratorial mind, right? The paranoid style in American politics as it currently presents, which is some 20% or 25% of people out there who firmly believe in the Uber conspiracy, right? That there is like one conspiracy to rule them all, and it goes every few years. It has a different name. So when George W. Bush mentions we're building a new world order in 1991, for a few years there, it's all about the new world order. When Alex Jones goes to Bohemian Grove in 1998 or 2002 or whenever that was, now that's another name for this thing. When it's Comet Pizza and Q and the global pedophile ring, like that's just another name for the thing. There will be some next iteration of the next generation of the Uber conspiracy. What are you doing? Yeah, when it's stormy here, the air takes on a certain quality at this time of night that's quite spectacular. The best time of night is dusk, when it's very stormy in one direction, but the sun is going down somewhere else. Just pro tip: go look outside when those conditions are met.
Do you think that has a name, like some sort of term?
I don't know, but I assume that it is part of the grand global conspiracy. The reptilians and the Bilderbergs and the Rothschilds are somehow involved.
But I would agree with you, except for this is the one occasion where you have a champion to your cause. Like you didn't have that with any other president, where they would like openly talk about how these conspiracies are happening and kind of egg it on and like just kind of continue to talk about it, and then get into a position to do something about it, and then not only do nothing about it, like chide you for like asking about it. Like, why are you still talking about this? Like, what do we do? Let's move on. Like that hasn't happened.
And
before,
a guy that he was friends with, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what makes it interesting. Like friends to whatever extent Donald Trump can be said to have friends, presumably, but like he had a public relationship with and was friendly with in a public sort of way. And there's video of him, having friendly exchanges with this guy. And then making weird jokes about how he really likes them young after he was convicted.
Right.
So it makes it weird that he was courting any of this to begin with, but also it was probably functionally impossible for him to poo-poo this from the beginning because of who his supporters are, right? Which is are people who are so fully steeped in this idea that the very foundations of any power in this country were corrupt to the very core, and that Epstein is just an example of that. That this is a guy who had dirt on everyone at the highest the highest echelons of power, and that is why he was murdered in jail, presumably before any of that could come out.
It probably did not help anything. I don't think that 1 minute does much, but like it's just unfortunate that there's.
Why do we have to have one missing minute? Like, come on.
Just come on.
That is cause to bring in Google and Apple and whoever else has got the good.
What is the situation?
Like the ChatGPT video AI wizards to come in and just fix the missing minute.
Right.
What happened?
And then you could have a real conspiracy. Well, they had like 8 hours or something of footage from Epstein's jail cell and the surrounds, but there's a missing minute through which you can now drive the entire busload of conspiracy thinking.
It's kind of hard to do all that in a minute. There were 18 minutes during Nixon. Like there was like a gap of 18 minutes where Nixon probably said something very incriminating. 18 minutes you could do a lot with. A minute is kind of hard to do with, but just the optics, it doesn't look great, especially to a conspiracy-minded person. Like, what are the chances that right when things are happening, like the first 8 hours, who gives a shit? It's just like when the meat, of the action, there's like a minute missing, and who knows what happened and whatever. But like,
it's like in a King of Kong, A Fistful of Quarters. All of a sudden, as this guy is about to break the 1 million mark and set the world record, there's a little bit of fuzz that happens in the corner on the score. It's like, wait a second.
Yeah.
Why would there be some distortion only in that moment of the video and not any other time?
But yeah, I do. Okay. And this is like a year ago, like this weekend is when the assassination attempt happened to then candidate Trump. Trump has survived a lot, the conviction and the impeachment and the the Access Hollywood tape. Do you think? And he once claimed that he could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and get away with it. If Trump was on the list and it was revealed that he was on the list, right? Would that sink him? Like, because he survived everything else. Why wouldn't he not?
It depends on what we mean by we don't even know what we mean when we say the list, right? Because now they're saying that there really isn't even any such thing as a client list. And like I hinted at earlier, there's a far more interesting story about Jeffrey Epstein than like whether or not he was putting famous people on a plane to go get rub and tugs from underage girls or was otherwise engaged in sex trafficking. I mean, we know that he was engaged in sex trafficking. The extent to which like Alan Dershowitz was partaking is interesting and bad for those individuals, or Bill Gates or Donald Trump or Bill Clinton or whoever else is purported to be among his friendly regulars there on Epstein Island. That's all interesting and in a prurient sort of way, right? To our dirty minds.
Very salacious, yeah. Why not?
Right, but more interesting is, where did Jeffrey Epstein get his money, which is an unanswered question. What were his massive investments that he was as successful that he was? Why was he able to run in these circles? And of course, there's the conspiracy underneath that is like, well, maybe he's Mossad. Maybe he was funded by some international agency determined to just run honey traps on all of the most important people in the world so that they could have them at their service when needed, right? Like, and we don't have any fucking clue about any of that stuff. And like, if you could trace the Epstein fortune and why he had that money and why he ran in those circles, that is an interesting thing that is perhaps worth exploring. Instead, we get whether or not there's an Epstein client list and who might be on it.
Right. But we get that because you had a presidential candidate talking up this list and people in his orbit talking up a list, right? So, like, the reason why there's this expectation is because they said it, and this other angle, like, no one has really talked about, right? So, like, I don't know if they would want to pivot to that. I guess they would just sooner rather just forget this whole episode and just move on. But, like,
what is the conspiracist's mindset on why Jeffrey Epstein was found out and held to account to the extent that he was, right? Because he was likely going to spend the rest of his life in prison until he ultimately did spend the rest of his life in prison.
Yeah. But like, the first go around, what was it? The labor secretary, right? Acosta, like somebody gave him like some
and whose
deal.
Labor secretary was that?
And it was Trump's in the first term, right? So like, why did he get that sweetheart deal in the first place, right?
Well, because he's a fucking very wealthy individual who's able to achieve those things. And maybe it's because of the blackmail photos that he kept in a safe that the FBI got a hold of, that Michael Wolff is going on podcasts. And by the way, it's so great when you get like, now we have Elon Musk and Michael Wolff, two of the like just incredibly unreliable narrators of reality, insisting that there's a lot more there. And that and Michael Wolff is like, I had a conversation with Jeffrey Epstein 15 years ago or something about how he had Polaroids in his safe of topless underage girls sitting on Donald Trump's lap. And it's like, I mean, that's fun, but like, what can we actually do with that?
This Epstein episode of late has created some strange bedfellows, right? There's a lot of weird crossover to where like the Tucker Carlsons of the world and people on the left are like in the same kind of like,
right. Although I will say, like, it felt like it was coming mostly from the right, and I think that the left has sort of started to pick up on it now because it's in an inevitable sort of way. Like, how can you not when you're handed this? But like, what is the conspiracy defense for? Like, how does it fit in with the mindset that he was held to account or going to be held to account? Like, that's the part that I don't understand. It doesn't compute with the idea that there is such a thing that's possible of the grand globalist pedophile ring. Right.
I mean, the likelihood that there isn't some grand whatever, it's just like a decentralized, it's like a bunch of like different creeps doing things. Like, I don't think there's like some sort of cabal that's controlling all of the traffic of child sexual exploitation.
Right. I think because overwhelmingly, like, those are the appetites of a very small percentage of people, right?
Right.
And, like, not to dismiss the awfulness of their crimes, but, like, those crimes happen, and when they are found out about, they are mostly persecuted, I think.
Well,
and maybe that's incredibly naive of me.
Yeah, I don't think it has a very high clearance rate. I remember Sound of Freedom a couple of years ago. There was that movie where a lot of
you saw that.
church groups went to, and I was in there, just sitting there. Like, for a few weeks, it was just packed theaters. And there's a story, basically it's like a very a small story of like these two kids who are like trafficked to somewhere in South America, and this hero guy comes and saves the day, right? And at the end, like, these particular kids made it, but then at the end they have a little caption at the end, and they explain how there's like hundreds of thousands of similar cases, like, across America, like, over the past however many years. And it seems to be like, I mean, this is, I'm sure, a global problem, but it is like a big problem in America. There seems to be a lot of demand for this sort of content, like a surprising and depressing amount of demand for this. And it's weird.
For
it
child sexual imagery in particular?
Yeah, yes.
It's a power user question, though, isn't it? Like, not to be weird about it, but, like, I think that 99% of child sexual imagery is consumed by the top 1% of power users of that content.
Is that how it is?
Right?
It's concentrated at the okay.
I mean, that's my assumption. Like, I to assume anything else is to believe that you could knock on 2 out of 3 doors in your neighborhood, and, like, there'd be a creep in there who's doing weird stuff with kiddie porn, right? Like, and you can't possibly believe that. So I think it's it's like alcoholism or whatever. Like, even though you see the grocery store is full of booze, something like 90% of it is going to be consumed by the top 10% of users.
Right. But I do wonder, because this is such a just a viscerally kind of like objectionable kind of issue, that it kind of cuts through a lot of the left, right, up, down, whatever divide. Like, everybody just kind of thinks this is bad and you should do something about it. So, like, when you're kind of promised to do something about it, and then you don't, or you try to minimize it, like, I think there's going to be some cost. It's not clear what that cost will be. The likelihood, I think, is just apathy by some. Like, I don't think anything beyond that is going to happen, but, like, it'll be interesting to see what happens, because this has never happened before, to where the champion of this conspiracy theory was in a position to do something about it and actively decided to do nothing.
Well, but he will eventually not be the sole focus of the primary. The trumpening will not be about Trump eventually, because he will die, right? Like, we've known that is the inevitable conclusion to this, and
we've hoped.
And the obvious thing is that the kooks will maintain, not necessarily under the banner of the trumpening or under the banner of MAGA, but under the banner of whoever has become their champion in the last few years. And it's Tucker Carlson and Charlie Kirk, and to a slightly more mainstream extent, like the Megyn Kellys of the world, I suppose. But, like, those who speak to MAGA, who speak to the people of the trumpening, once he goes away, that which unites them will be their distrust of and their distaste for all of our institutions, right? And that's not going anywhere, which is why what I'm saying is it will take some new form. It will have some new name in 5 years.
You don't think it'll disperse? It'll go back to the way it was before Trump? Because, like, it seems like Trump had this galvanizing effect that these other people either if it's charisma or they just haven't been around.
It will disperse from our news feeds, right? Like, it will be, because I still don't think that there is someone capable of, like you said, galvanizing or of collecting all of these people in the way that he has been able to do. No one is that much of just an angry cipher in the way that he is. And so maybe to that extent you could say that it will disperse or disappear, but presumably that's just because like when we go to read the AP or Reuters or CBSNews.com 5 years from now, Trump won't be there to be the thing that is the center of our attention. And so there will be much more normal people around, presumably. Anyway, trying to think if there's anything else on those Sunday news shows worth mentioning. Kristi Noem appeared in person on Meet the Press, having spent a lot of time in the past week getting her hair did and getting her lips filled and all of that, which is obviously the important work of the head of the Department of Homeland Security. Interviewed by Kristen Welker, who deployed a couple of her standard can I get a yes or no 3 times answers or questions, so-called. The only thing that I'll say about her appearance there was it is super fucking weird to have anyone say this is the single greatest response to a disaster in history. Right? Like it's a weird instinct to get on television, and when the thing that we're talking about is hundreds of dead people and perhaps still more dead people to come, and to say to assert out of nothing, essentially, that this was the greatest response to a natural disaster that this country has ever seen, and like. It's just weird to go on TV and say that.
This was not slowed down at all. In fact, it was much more responsive. If you remember, I was there. I was standing right there long before this report ever came out, and people were asking, and we were granting permission in real time. So the false reporting has been something that is inappropriate, and it's something that I think we need to clear up, and that this response was by far the best response we've seen out of FEMA, the best response we've seen out of the federal government in many, many years, and certainly much better than what we saw under Joe Biden. The
whole idea is to project strength and, like, competence, despite the fact that in some cases, like, there's nothing, to be done. Sometimes a lot of people will die because of a natural, like a natural disaster or what have you. And so, like, it seems like there's, like, no humility in the approach that they're taking, instead of saying this is a tragic loss of life, and then, like, local, state, and federal officials, as soon as we could, we went in and did A, B, and C. Like, if you try to talk it up in that way, that'd be fine. But, like, to pretend
and by the way, it would be normal to be like, and it would be normal, and it would be in keeping with the Republican understanding of their relationship with the media to give the "how dare you, Kristen," and the Democrats in the media insist that this is about our that we're somehow failing people. We are working ourselves to the bone. We've got hundreds of people on the ground. We've got thousands of people working behind the scenes to make sure that this goes great. And if there's any question about it in the future, then we can sort that out then. But right now there are grieving people, and people still holding out hope against hope to find their missing relatives in the floodwaters in Texas, and we will continue to effort that as best we can. And how dare you make this about politics? Like, that would be standard-ish, like bog standard Republican response to that sort of a question. And instead, it's planting the flag of saying this is the single greatest response to a natural disaster that any American administration has ever done. And that's super fucking weird.
I was there that very morning, and that afternoon when the flooding was happening, and was with those emergency responders right away, with the governor, with Nim Kidd, who's running the state's response. And every one of them will tell you that they got everything that they needed when they asked for it immediately, and that they've never seen a federal government respond in support of a state's management of a disaster situation like this. So
it is very weird, yeah. But it's you got to pretend that things are great even when they're not.
The first, I think, TikTok of what happened at that one particular girls' Christian summer camp came out today. I think it was either Washington Post or the Times, but a retelling of events as they unfolded that night. And it seems that there was an hour plus between the guy getting the head of the camp getting an alert on his cell phone at like 1:30 in the morning saying shit's potentially going to get real bad, do something, And it's like, a standard flood alert, basically, from the National Weather Service. And an hour elapsed between that and shit actually getting real bad at that camp. And then the obviously dozens of people who ended up dead because of inaction there. And it's tempting, of course, to blame the guy who got the flood warning on his phone for not getting everybody out of bed and getting them to higher ground or what have you in the middle of a raging thunderstorm. But also, how many times has he gotten the flood warning alert on his phone and it turned out to be nothing in seasons past and perhaps even in weeks past, for all we know? And so I will refrain from being super mad at that guy, not knowing all of the details. Obviously, in a larger sense, maybe they should have a more effective warning system than they currently have on that river, which is a known, apparently a well-known major flood risk. Back in the 80s, this very river flooded and 10 or 15 campers drowned in very similar fashion, and apparently nothing has changed since then. Like it's a known risk. These buildings are dangerously close and dangerously low, or dangerously close in dangerously low areas relative to this river.
I follow a handful of meteorologists on Facebook because I'm awesome. There are so many meteorologists like blaming themselves that can't sleep because they feel like it's their fault. Like I should have been more urgent in my messaging. Like they're all blaming themselves. Yeah,
but also maybe there should be a better warning system along this river than,
it's just
hey, when it starts getting gnarly up here, we get on the phone and tell the people whose phone number we have slightly downriver that it's getting gnarly and that they should fucking take off, because like that's not good enough, right? Obviously.
There was something I read a couple of days ago where, like, a few years ago, money was on offer, like about $10 million for that area. And it was suggested that they use it to beef up their detection, apparatus, and that did not happen. It was spent on other things. It wasn't like you have to do it this way, but I wonder if they got ahead of this problem, which is like you say, it's a known thing. Maybe it would have, likely people would still be dead, but maybe it would be half, or give people like a fighting chance if there was a more advanced detection system than the National Weather Service a couple hours before it happens. Like if there's some sort of like all of these conditions are now ripe for something bad to happen, like maybe like 12 hours in advance. This is a fast moving thing, so it's kind of hard to have advance warning. But like if you could buy some time, if you give somebody a couple more hours, maybe a good chunk of them would have made it out. Who knows? But like at least put yourself in the best position to have your people survive an event like this. And so, once the dust settles, once they I hope they look into what happened and then make some recommendations as to what to do going forward, especially in a place that's known for this sort of thing.
Yeah. Anything else in the news of the week that you want to talk about? I want to talk about Superman at perhaps some length. So.
I went to go see that movie. Yeah.
All right. There's nothing else in the news that.
No.
The All-Star Game is happening. There's a home run derby happening right now. All-Star Game happening tomorrow, and as perhaps people know, Major League Baseball has been experimenting with robot strike zones in the minor leagues for the last few years, and it's going to make its major league debut here in the exhibition game that is the All-Star Game tomorrow night, Tuesday night, as this podcast comes out, which is kind of exciting.
I'm excited.
Each team gets 2 challenges and retains the challenge.
Will there be a guy there anyway?
Successful. And the umpire stands behind the plate and makes the call.
He shouts the call.
It's just that he's making the call at the behest of his robot overlords.
Yeah, this is best case.
The umpire union, do they enshrine themselves into this future to where no matter how advanced these robots get,
you have a guy.
We'll still be running things,
Yeah, I'm for it.
I mean, you can't have nobody down there to run the manager off the field.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a private organization. Why not? They can do what they want.
I'm all for it.
Yeah.
The strike zone. I was watching Greg Maddox highlights on YouTube this week
That's what we were doing.
as I'm wont to do, and
That's what we did.
he was, in my opinion, like basically the greatest pitcher of all time. Also, he pitched at a time
Not
when,
a strike.
when the greatest pitcher of all time could get a call that was an inch off the plate and then realize, oh, okay, let's see how far I can push this.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he's 6 or 8 inches off the plate and he's still getting the call. Guess what he's going to do?
Right.
He's going to keep throwing the ball where they're going to keep calling it a strike. And like he is a guy who had pinpoint control as much as any, like the command, better command than anybody ever, or at least right up there with the greatest of all time, and benefited greatly from what was at times an absolutely absurd so-called strike zone back in the 90s. I'm going to put in the show note a link to a video that we watched actually. Which is because there's this thing that goes around that talks about there's like a meme, and MLB has a hand in distributing this meme, talking about Greg Maddox's great 76 pitch complete game, which is a remarkably low number and apparently incorrect. The legendary 76 pitch complete game has been misremembered or mispropagandized by the people at MLB and their social media apparatus.
Wait, how did that happen? I mean, baseball's known for their meticulous scorekeeping. You know, don't they keep track of this stuff?
You know who's better at that? Robots.
Yeah, that's true.
But there's a MLB insists it was 76. Baseball Reference has the game at 77 pitches, and the broadcast had the game at 78 pitches, and you'll just have to watch the YouTube video that I stick in the show note over there at brainiron.substack.com to figure out who, in fact, had it right.
It's clear that one has it right? One of these numbers is correct?
Yeah, that's the claim of the video is that they have figured out where the mistakes were made and gotten to the correct answer.
Wow.
But yeah, anytime you can watch Greg Maddox highlights on YouTube, it's probably a pretty good day. So do that.
You know, people love to complain. Do you think people will complain, like old geezers, old timers will complain about like the lost art of like working the umpire? Like now it'll be so precise that you can't do what.
Yes.
Oh yes, definitely.
They will complain.
Yeah.
You've been listening to Cast Iron Brains, a podcast with Bob and Abe. Find the show on Substack, brainiron.substack.com, where you can get more from us, including the Billboard Hot 100 game, where this week we will discuss our outing to go see Jerry's band.
We're not going to talk about that now?
I guess we could talk about that. I don't know.
I guess
save it
it's
for the music
okay.
podcast, right? We'll talk about it over. If you want to hear about our outing to Waynesboro, Virginia, to watch Pink Floyd tribute band, you've got to go to brainiron.substack.com.
And that's how the only way people can listen is on the browser.
You can download the Substack app and then play it on your Substack app as long as you subscribe.
And subscribing is free.
Subscribing is free. You are more than welcome to pay for a subscription. And
I can market that one is the thing.
Yeah, it's absolutely free to subscribe. But also, you can choose to support the show if you're at all appreciative of what it is that we do around here. Just go to brainiron.substack.com and check that out. The opening and closing themes of the show were composed by Mark Gillig, tetramermusic.com, Tetramer music.com. For more from Mark and the aforementioned Jerry. Abe, did you make it to the movies this week?
I did. I went to go see Superman.
Oh, what a coincidence. So did we.
We also
That's right.
did.
You guys went to see it. How did you guys like it?
No. You have to go first.
Okay. So I thought going into this movie, overall it was fine, as most movies are lately. The one quibble I have is, going into the movie, it was like, finally, Superman. I don't need to know that much because I know Superman. I know the bald guy who hates Superman. Some Achilles heel with whatever. He's got this weakness. But and he works at some newspaper, right? Like just the universe I get, let's go, right? And then this movie starts introducing characters I've never heard about. Like, who the hell is Mr. Erratic or whatever the guy's name is?
Mr. Erratic.
Mr. Terrific, I believe you're
Mr.
referring
Whatever.
to.
Yeah. Like
He doesn't even act like that.
like all these random characters I've never heard of. Like the whole movie.
Well, you've heard of the Green Lantern, right?
Green Lantern, I didn't know the woman I'd heard of.
I've
Hawk
heard of the
Lady.
Green Lantern name, but wasn't that like Ryan Reynolds or Seth Rogen or somebody? I don't know, but I was confused like halfway. I was like, what is it? Like, who are these extra people? Why don't we just stick to the main thing? And also, I came in for Superman, not this weakling. This guy is getting his ass kicked throughout. Like, they open the movie with he just lost like a couple of minutes ago, and the whole time he's just kind of like getting his ass kicked here and there. He needs help by some dog. Like, where the fuck is Superman? Like, what is this? Like,
it's not just some dog.
yeah, like,
It's
who the hell is this dog?
important
And then Rhaenyra, whatever, the girl from the House of the Dragon, shows up at the end. Overall, it was fun.
Wait, was that the young?
Yeah, I think she was like the season 1 girl from the House of the Dragon.
Oh, I didn't get
Yeah.
enough of a close up for me to recognize that.
She looked familiar, but I couldn't
Yeah,
place
it's
her.
like, oh,
But
she's
that's
from
who
the
she
Dragon
is.
show, and then she just fucks off with
Yeah.
the dog. But anyway, I guess they were trying to get this franchise off the ground after the last iteration of this. But like, I don't know. Like, if I have to do more homework, I'm out. I just wanted a simple
But did
story.
it ruin the movie for you?
No, but like with the other,
I didn't know any of these fucking characters either,
who
and it
they
didn't
are?
bother me at all.
It
you
bothered
know?
me because I was like, "Who's like? What's his move?" Like they were playing music. I don't know. It was fun.
What's his move?
Yeah. I need to have like a general idea as to what you do. He has like I don't know, whatever.
I mean, I don't have any idea what the lantern is capable of. All I know is he waves his fucking ring around or whatever, and all of a sudden, funny green shapes come up in
Right.
like force fields and shit.
And once
I
again,
assume that the Green Lantern is an absurd superhero because my understanding is that we are meant to forget culturally the existence of the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern movie that was
course.
apparently so bad that they want to erase it from our collective memories, which is why it's this Nathan Fillion fella instead. And I if I had heard the phrase Mr. Terrific in any other context besides, I think, a King of Kong or the King of Kong, A Fistful of Quarters. I
No,
think
that guy.
Isn't that guy call himself Mr. Terrific or something?
He's Mr. Awesome.
Oh, there's a Mr. Awesome. You're right. But I'd never heard of Mr. Terrific before.
oh, there you go.
No idea what's going on with that character.
Once again, the
It's very serious. Mr. Serious is what he should be called.
they have the cartoonishly evil person, like that the frizzly hair leader of that made up country, like
Yeah.
like-
A great reprisal of his role from the movie 2012, like because he played the Russian oligarch
Yep.
who had all of the money and the young girlfriend
Yeah,
or
and the-
whatever.
and the kids, yeah.
I imagine that's actually the same character also,
Might as well be.
because it might as like that guy instead of getting on the Ark ends up taking over some fucking bullshit Eastern European country. But that guy was great. I liked the Lex Luthor was awesome
Yeah,
in
he's
this.
pretty
Like
good,
He
the
was
best
so
Lex
good.
Luthor since the great Gene Hackman, in my opinion.
And no slip of the English accent, not one. Because you know how I feel about casting British actors as Americans unnecessarily. I was waiting for it,
That's true. Yeah,
and it didn't happen.
Superman's like an American, like from Philly, right? Yeah, he's like a. They didn't.
What?
cast- The actual Superman is. I know you're talking about somebody else, but like the Superman guy.
Oh, the actor.
is-
No.
yeah.
Lex Luthor is who I'm talking about.
No. Yes, I know that. I was just saying,
Oh, you
like,
shouldn't have told me he was from Philly. That really diminishes my
That's-
You
appreciation.
could, you know what you could do? You could Google him, and then go to images and just put them on this big screen right here.
Oh, you calm yourself down there, lady. Jesus Christ.
I'm just saying you could.
I'm not going to... You keep that to yourself.
they went after that
Hey, dude.
Henry Cavill look. Like he looks kind of like that guy.
It's a Superman look.
Superman looks
Yeah, the
like
Superman
that. That's
look,
just
yeah.
His
what it
hair
is.
was a little too dark. So was Lois Lane's, but whatever.
Big fan of Lois. If Lori's going to sit here gushing over the Superman, I won't be shy about gushing over Lois Lane in this iteration of Lois
And you
Lane.
didn't watch Marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
Yeah,
Rachel
Yeah.
Rachel
This is your funeral.
Brosnahan or something.
Yeah, she's pretty good.
She's great.
The best part of the movie for me was when Mr. Terrific, going into the third act, was saying, like, the more this gets open and closed, it's going to cause a rift, and then the world will end. And she says, "You're kidding." It's the best part of the movie.
It was a very funny superhero movie, as these things go. I appreciated the tone of the whole thing. I thought it was successful in terms of what it was trying to do, and ultimately I enjoyed the shit out of it. I have very few of my normal quibbles with things here. I just liked this movie a lot, and I'm mostly amused by the right-wing reaction to it. There's been some pushback that this is a Fox News segment. I think the Chiron said "super woke" at the bottom, and it made some. It's like Kellyanne Conway is mad about this being too woke, and I think Ben Shapiro complained about Superman being too woke. Although, to be fair, I think he did that before the movie came out, which is, of course, I mean, obviously, how could you possibly be wrong about anything if you're complaining about it before you've even seen the thing?
Without knowing more about the controversy, is it that Superman kept on losing too many times for their liking, and that's why he's weak, or he was too much of an interventionist? You know, he's like
it's a failure to promote the American way at every possible turn, like to vocalize his virtue as being intimately tied into the American way in a way that apparently has traditionally been done by the Superman franchise. What, children?
Oh, there was also that scene at the end, towards the end, where he talks about how, like, he's no less human than anyone else, just like Abe always says.
Yeah, that's right.
And maybe that's what they didn't like about it, the Republicans?
No, the thing that, so yeah, as I was saying, they didn't like that there's not a playing up of truth, justice, and the American way being the thing that Superman is championing. And also, they didn't like that James Gunn said in some interview that, you know, the classic Superman origin story is that he's an immigrant, right? I mean, he's an alien, but also it's sort of an immigrant story and about like an immigrant who makes right? Who does good in the world. And like, we support immigrants because we're Americans, and that's what has long been this upset the conservatives, and it became a brief flare up in the culture war for the right. And I'm baffled by this, because if you watch this fucking movie,
it's not really a problem.
This is an individual whose birth parents sent him to another world to lord over it as a god, right? That's the central conflict in the movie, is that Superman believes that he was sent here to do good because he was given a message from his parents that was damaged in transit, and he only got the first 180 characters of the tweet, and then fucking Elon comes along and fixes it so he can now see all 240 characters of the tweet or whatever. Like, Elon comes along and gives him the blue checkmark upgrade so he can see the full message, and it turns out the rest of the message was, you should impregnate all of their women and build a harem and go ahead and take over the whole planet. And they can either submit to you and you can rule them peacefully, or you can dominate them if they choose not to, because you will be a god among them because of their young yellow son. Right? This was his parents' idea about sending their kid off into the world to do good. Right? That was the genes from which he sprung. Right. Instead, he was raised by salt of the earth American Kansans and became,
with Southern accents,
a champion of not just the downtrodden and the oppressed, but truth, justice, and the American way. Right. To the point of deciding to go and do the rather American thing by intervening in a foreign conflict without really having the go-ahead from anyone, because who tells the 800-pound gorilla what to do? Fucking Nobody
Right.
tells the 800-pound gorilla what to do. That's America, and that's fucking Superman, right? He's not beholden to anyone because he's the most powerful creature in the goddamn solar system. So this is the story of someone whose dubious moral origins have no meaningful impact on him or his way of seeing the world, because he was instead nurtured and inculcated in a superior moral framework that values acts of kindness and human life. Specifically, the American framework, right? He was a product of America in such a profound way that no matter what his genetic parentage wanted of him, he instead chose to personify our virtues in ways that you couldn't fucking hope for, right? Out of somebody naturally born here, right? Like, how fucking stupid do you have to be to just hear the word immigrant and assume then that the movie must be opposed to your politics, or if it is actually in opposition to your values? Is it at all possible that you're the one with the wrong moral framework here? That it's not in keeping with the American way as it has long been understood? That maybe you're the baddies, as the meme goes, right?
Yeah. It is odd how it seems. I don't know. I mean, some of the people, I assume, watched it and complained after, and others, it sounds like just reflexively, like, immigrant, Hollywood movie, it must be some sort of thing. Like, I got to be against it. Like, I have to pick a side and I have to be against. Like, without actually, like, sitting through the 2.5 hours and seeing what the story is. Again, I don't know how many of them watched it versus not, but, like, it just seems like they're kind of jumping the gun. I do find it, by the way, just...
Jumping the gun.
Yeah.
Hey!
Superman is Team America World Police, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's doing...
Jumping the gun.
He's a neocon.
Yes.
Like, what are you complaining about?
But that
here?
neocon has
You idiots?
fallen out of favor now. But, like...
Well, I know, but like, when you talk about truth, justice, and the American way, you're talking about a display of power and moral superiority wantonly, right? Which is what Superman gets in trouble for in this movie, but is ultimately proven to have been doing the right thing, right? Like, it's fascinating to me that the political and technological culture as portrayed in the movie is sort of complaining about Superman's use of his power in a way that in the 1980s, like, Christopher Reeve made a movie where he denuclearized the globe as Superman. Right? Like, that was Superman 4: A Quest for... Now, yes, it has knock-on effects where he creates Nuclear Man, the bad guy in Superman 4: A Quest for Peace, and has to deal with the fallout
Nuclear Man
of having taken action without the imprimatur of the global elites or what have you. But, like, I just sincerely don't understand how you could watch this and not get the idea that, like, what America does best is that it takes on people who might, if they were inculcated into their own cultures, we would have serious problems with. Right? But instead, the power of America is in our ability to, and yes, does he look like a fucking corn-fed white boy? Yes, of course. But also, we can take an alien from another country, from another world, whose underlying nature would be to dominate us, and instead make him part of the glorious tossed salad that is America.
A couple of quick points. One, I do, this is a recurring thing, but in this instance, they have to do this. Like, it's set in a world where newspapers dominate how people consume things because, like, he worked for a newspaper. But I've noticed that the newspaper and the cigarette and basically a lot of the things that of old, like, it reads much better on the screen. Like, instead of, like, where we are now, where people have smartphones and vapes and whatnot, like, people always go back to that kind of, like, aesthetic, who are, like, they're wearing a suit and they got the newspaper. But again, it's because his character is that. So I'll allow it. I just find it funny that so many movies lately are showing this world where people read newspapers. Like, people aren't reading newspapers. Like, what are you talking about?
Well, that's what's sort of nice about this whole universe. was like, hey, this is a different universe.
Yeah.
Sort of like the one, but like different. You're fine.
Right.
Like that's with the what did he say that sort of star-shaped monster was? An interdimensional imp. Just like there's this thing shooting laser beams from a jellyfish star, and it's just like a thing going on. They got it.
Yeah.
Like it works as this is a different world than the one we live in.
It's like in the modern world, but not your modern world. It's like this alternate world. But the other thing is, like all this like talk about how it's too woke or whatever, but like the Superman is like associated with America more so than the other comic books, like characters such as Batman and the others. And there is this weekend the movie came out and it did great domestically. The numbers were solid, but sluggish internationally. Like it didn't seem to be gaining a lot of traction in the international markets. And one theory is that the American brand is at a low point right now, and so people are less inclined to watch movies where America, it's seen as a American propaganda thing. And it's funny that
fully half of our culture can't recognize that the dude is on their fucking side.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
And so it's weird that
how we don't believe in ourselves. Why is anybody else gonna fucking believe in us?
Right. But it's kind of weird that there's domestically there's a faction that's complaining that it's not America enough, and then internationally people are trying to distance themselves from watching this movie because it's too America. Like it's just a very weird kind of situation.
Like I said, I enjoyed the movie a great deal. I thought that it's very clever in its ability to comment directly on what's happening in the current moment. James Gunn had a run-in with effectively like a right-wing version of a cancel mob, right? Like the reason that he lost his job at Disney, where he was supposed to helm Guardians of the Galaxy 3, was because people started talking about old jokes that he made on Twitter, and so he was he was the victim of a cancellation briefly, and so that informs a great deal of this movie and the script for this movie, obviously. Again, I think it portrays a lot of problems with the modern moment in very effective ways, not least of which is the goofy Putin stand-in, who even has a portrait of himself astride a horse in much the same way that Putin has been photographed in the past. And the adventurism of that Putin character trying to take over another country, and that being a problem for our wonderful American Superman. The one quibble that I do have is at the end is you can't do the joke that they did at the end of Avengers again, which is at the end of Avengers. Loki is making some big dramatic, like he's been defeated, right? The Avengers have effectively won, and Loki is giving his big, I'm the bad guy, and you'll see me again, right? Like you think you've won now, but and then the green guy Hulk shows up and just grabs him by the leg, and bam, bam, bam. He does that thing where he just whips him around the room like he's a little rag doll, right? And it's to great comic effect. It's a funny joke, but at the end of this, Superman makes his big speech to Lex Luthor, and then Lex is going to have an angry riposte, right? He's going to respond in kind, and then the Crypto, the dog, bites him by the leg and just whips him around the room like a rag doll. And it's like, I mean, it's funny, and it got an involuntary chuckle out of me in the moment because it was effectively timed or whatever and funny, but it in the next half a second, I'm like, well, but that's just the Hulk and Loki joke that they did at the end of Avengers. We can't do that again. You got to go back into the writer's room and work something else out for that moment.
Hey, if it works, go back to the well, right? By the way, just a random thing that I noticed only after the fact of watching the movie, the parents of this weakened Superman, they sounded a lot like the Howard Stern show has a bunch of lackeys that work for him, and one of them is Richard Christie, and he has his dad call and they record his voicemails, and he sounds like this country bumpkin guy. Like, the parents sound just like him, and like apparently the director is a big fan of the Howard Stern show, and he kind of used that sound to have the voice, the actors kind of portray that, because he's like from thereabouts, Kansas or Missouri or wherever.
It was my only problem with the
and so
whole
they sounded
movie
kind of
was
like
the southern accent.
Yeah.
on
The parents were portrayed as way dumber
Yeah.
than they have been in the because the Kevin Costner version of the character is very noble and like intelligent and well spoken,
and
version
actually
of Pa
sounding
Kent.
like they're from Kansas, the Midwest, not the South.
Right.
That was a southern
These-
accent. That was not a redneck accent. They're different. That was a southern accent.
Yeah, but they were they were portrayed as like sort of
I
goofy
know.
dummies.
I
And
didn't
it's-
like it.
And it, like, to me, again, that reinforces the whole point, which is like this fucking alien super god from another world who's been sent to dominate and take over is raised by a couple of fucking bumpkin morons, and still the bumpkin morons can produce this moral hero, right? Like, and that's the power of America there, and you don't, and like your inability to fucking see that is really, really fascinating.
But I don't think anybody's like reading it. That I think they're just kind of like at the surface level making these complaints. But like I think it's weird. It's a weird choice to make as a director, because like you like enjoy listening to this show. And like, by the way, the parents that this Richard Christie guy's he plays the voicemail of his dad. It's played for laughs. Like, look how dumb and like backwards like he sounds.
But I think those characters are introduced to be laughed at.
Right.
Like,
So it's just weird.
he gets one moment. The dad gets one moment of like, and it's a classic. It's a trope of the Superman genre. Like, he eventually has to go back to Kansas and find himself again. In this case, it's a short speech by his old man. But initially, both of his parents are portrayed as like, for laughs, they are stupid.
Right. And somehow they produce like a well-adjusted. I mean, it's kind of he lacks confidence in some regards, like when he's just Clark Kent, but otherwise like a pretty decent bloke. But like the parents who raised the Howard Stern guy, like that's more accurate. He grew up to be a degenerate, like drunk.
Right.
So it's like it's weird that you would choose those parents as the model for Superman.
Lori, am I permitted to take these photos down from my screen?
Yeah.
Are you satiated?
Yeah.
Anything else on Superman worth mentioning here, Lori or Abe?
I don't think so.
If they do any sort of separate standalone movies with the characters I don't remember, like I'm not going to watch those. So like if they do another Superman, I'll watch that. But if they do the Mr. Whatever guy and
I don't want to watch a Nathan Fillion Green Lantern.
I don't think Nathan Fillion wants to do that.
And I don't know that we'll see Hawk Girl or whatever. The Mr. Terrific was the best of those side characters, I think, but also, as presented, very clearly does not have the charisma to carry a film, right? Like, he's purposefully presented as lacking that sort of charisma.
Yeah.
So that would be weird. But more Superman, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Bring it on. It was fun. And more, obviously Lex Luthor will feature prominently, presumably moving forward. And it's like it's a fun nod, like because in Superman 1978, Lex Luthor wanted, like, his whole thing is to like get all of Arizona as new seaside or like oceanfront property. Because he was going to knock California off the map, and so he bought up a bunch of real estate on the cheap in Arizona, right? So like the fact that he wants half a country out there in made up Eastern Europe it's like Luthor always has the most absurd desires.
What was your take on the shit posting monkeys doing reputational harm to Superman, like just online, like they were like.
Yeah. Very, very good. And like I don't know, the whole thing works for me. And I appreciated the not holding your hand through a whole origin story thing again.
Yes. Yeah.
Like there was just no need for it. Anything? What else did you engage in the culture, Abe? Anything?
I've been watching this show on Netflix, Tires, with Shane Gillis. And I don't think it's like particularly good. There's a couple of jokes here and there that are funny, but like it's just like this schlubby dude. Actually, the whole show is just full of schlubs. They work at this tire shop and just like they're trying to do like an office kind of thing, like dynamic,
Right.
but like there's no Steve Carell to carry the show, so it's just a bunch of people that are okay. But it's like 30 minutes, not bad. It was a very shortened, like just 6-episode first season, so I went through that, and I was like, oh, let's see what's going on in the second season. So it's like marginally better, but it's still, whatever.
Just TV.
Yeah,
sounds
just
like
TV.
you're saying.
Yeah, it's fine.
Did we watch anything else besides Superman, Lori?
No, we tried to figure out how lasers work, and last night we watched nothing.
Did you guys get to the bottom of the laser issue?
No.
Not really, no. We'll discuss lasers in the Billboard show here in a few minutes. Let's see. I'm in the process of reading the Stephen King and Peter Straub co-written book, The Talisman, from way back when, which was not a Stephen King book that I read back then, I guess because it was co-written with another author, and I was like, I'm not going to read a Stephen King book that is co-written with some other guy who I don't know, so I'd never read this one before. And it was at the library, and I snatched it, and it's good so far. I'm disappointed in myself for not having read it when I was a kid. More fantasy than horror. Like it's a fantasy epic more than it is a traditional Stephen King horror book, but still good so far. I'm about halfway through that.
There's going to be, on August 6th, a Netflix documentary about the SEC, and I am so ready.
Really? What's the focus? Just like the coaches of the SEC, or just like everything?
No, just football.
Ooh.
Just SEC football.
Wait.
Netflix documentary.
Is this the
Here
one
you
where
go.
this is from the last season that they took? I think we talked about this before, where they're waiting like 8 months to show it. Like, okay,
Yeah.
okay, that should be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, because initially the thought was like, why are they waiting this long to showcase something? But I guess it makes sense in the run up to the next season. Like you have all this stuff.
I don't know. I cannot get myself excited about football. Like, I'll be happy when it's here, but like
I'm so well. It's because I mean, all the media days are really doing it. It's working. All of Twitter that I follow and all the podcasts, they're talking to all the coaches and seeing who they can talk to, and they're all excited because they're nobodies. And they're like, "Oh, we got to talk to the coach of Arizona State."
Right.
yeah,
And I'm excited for them.
When do you get excited, Bob? Like the first Sunday night football, or just like you just wait until
There
the
is
last
a
minute?
0% chance that I will ever be excited about anyone talking to the head coach of Arizona State. It will not bring any sort of a smile to my face.
It's just because you're selfish.
It's not because I'm selfish. I just cannot care.
It's good. I'll care. It's just
I'll be excited to watch the games when they get. And I will get
We'll get
excited, but for now, it's like it's sort of like the Little League season, which is I'm rarely excited about it ahead of time. Like I sort of just dread the amount of time and energy that it's going to take me to engage with college football in the same way that I
don't
dread
have to.
the amount of time and energy that Little League
You
baseball
have
takes
to do
on.
Little League. You
It
don't
is-
have to do football.
It is a source of joy and happiness in my life and distraction from other things that are less fun to engage with. And I'm speaking both of Little League baseball and my college football fandom. But like looking forward to it, not really. It's just too much.
I see.
And I will be hard pressed to turn away from it. Like we turn the TV on at noon for whatever the big noon game is.
TVs.
And then
TVs.
Yeah.
Let's
and
be
there will
honest.
be fucking four
the
games
cat's
on television.
Scratching the carpet.
Stop talking to the cat. There will be 4 games on for the rest of the day
Right, yeah.
until we go to bed
Yeah.
at 11:30 or midnight. And it's like, man, it's just an awful lot. And usually by the end of the season, I'm like, I'm glad football is over so we can think about
Yeah, me
literally
too.
anything else.
I am too.
That is
I
true.
like
there,
when
there
it's
are
over.
there are some weekends in the fall where like there's like big games on Saturday and then games on Sunday. It's like I'm watching too much television, like because like in the off season, I'll just watch a couple of shows here and there, watch the Sunday morning show, like just a handful of 60 minutes, and then just be done. But like,
right, the amount of TV that I watch in non-football times is so much less than the amount of TV that I watch when football is on.
It's not really TV though; it's sports.
Yeah,
It's different.
anyway, all right. Abe, you got anything else for us tonight?
nope.
Well, I guess that's all we've got for you tonight. Then we will talk to you next time.
Later.
So you haven't started packing up yet, so I can still see that.
First of all, how dare you? This will be the last to go. You know, I'm doing 30 minutes of packing every day in the lead up. You know, that way, like on the day that I move, like one of my friends is helping me move, it'll be the most seamless like experience ever. It'll be like under 75 minutes, just to and from. It'll be all ready to go.
Do you have like moving boxes ready? And
So I have a couple of moving boxes. What was tricky is that like 4 or 5 days is going to be eaten up by the San Diego trip that I'm going to in a couple of days. So when I get back, that whole week, I'll be able to start moving stuff. It helps not to have a lot, to have just a one bedroom. But still, you'd be surprised. There's a lot of just random shit.
yeah. Is it all shit that you're...
I would not be surprised. You don't know.
Is this an opportunity to declutter, to Marie Kondo? Or?
Almost nothing is making the list. You know, like I spent the last couple of weekends just like buying stuff because some of the stuff's like, oh, I'm definitely not bringing this stupid couch with me, and this bed frame is not making the cut. A lot of casualties in this move.
What about like kitchen stuff? Are you packing everything up? Or are you?
I don't like. I have like a mishmash of stuff. So I was like,
Right.
maybe I just get like a set of things. You know. So
This is why I'm asking. Are you gonna get rid of all your shit and then have like a grown-up set of plates?
I think I'm trending in that direction. That wasn't my initial thought. My thing was that just get the big stuff, and I think it was either this weekend or the last weekend. I just walked into a Crate and Barrel store.
Oh, look at you!
And then I looked around and I just sat in one of them, and and then the lady was like, "You want that one?" I was like, "Yeah." And then I was in and out in like 30 minutes.
You know what you
And
need?
$50,000.
Yeah.
What you need, and I'm sure that you would not be in this era of self-involved, childless singles that we are. You are at the vanguard of.
Is that right?
Like, tell me that there aren't like a number of like chubby elementary school teacher women who are in their 30s who haven't put out a registry, even though they're not like they're in no danger of becoming engaged or married at any point soon.
Oh man.
Like, I'm sure it's happened many times.
That would be a very sad registry. Like if you want like just to go through and see what's up.
You should definitely send out like Abe's never getting married invites.
Yeah, this was a Sex and the City episode.
Oh,
was
was
it?
Sort of.
Okay.
Sort of.
It's a great. I appreciate it for its sitcom silliness.
Yeah.
It's
As
she
a plot
goes to
device?
a party, baby shower or something.
The proceeding was created with 100% human content.